Hello everyone, this is Haboman here. Welcome to episode 4 of Primetime Reviews. This time we are going to be taking a look at the second Optimus Prime that I have from the Transformers Prime line. The first time we took a look at Cyberverse Commander Class Optimus Prime, and like I said in that video, he was a placeholder until I got the real one, which, as you can see here, I have. This is Transformers Prime First Edition Optimus Prime. This is where this stuff gets confusing. This is not the first edition Optimus Prime. This is the re-release that happened like later that year, I think around Christmas or something like that. I'm not entirely sure when exactly it happened, but it's still the first edition mold. It's just the second or third run of it. And we are going to take a look at it. So let's start up front here. This is definitely my favorite part of this whole vehicle mode, is just how big not only the nose of the truck is, but also just how wide the bumper is. It really gets across a sense of size for this truck mode, especially when you're staring down the front. It makes it look really nicely to scale. Come around to the side, you've got silver paint on these boxes, the traditional Optimus Prime red, blue with a little bit of silver, gray, and white color scheme going on. Rubber smokestacks up the sides here, which thankfully peg in a few ways so they're not just hanging there. It's an easy way to keep them from getting bent. You can see I've stored his weapons on the back here, mainly just to show that he has them, but if we remove them we can see the back part of the toy here, which is pretty much just a gray trailer hitch. There's not really much more to show you other than it's very clean down the bottom. Yeah, you can see what are obviously his legs, but this stuff all in here is really nicely compact. It's not entirely obvious that these are his shoulders, although really where else could they be? I guess the only other point on him that's not really that clean would be this area back here. It's nice and flat, which is good. It helps it look nice from the side, but from the back it looks a little bit hollow with these bits and hinges being exposed, and especially these bars. I wouldn't mind all this if these joints weren't here, kind of ruining the illusion of this part, this front of the cab being separate from the trailer hitch area. He rolls very nicely. He's just got these solid black plastic wheels, and they work very nicely. And all in all, this is a very successful truck mode. He's got a little bit more paint. If we come up to the front here, you can see yellow paint on the lights right above the windshield. You can see that the windshields themselves are cast in blue translucent plastic, as well as the headlights. So he's painted. There's either blue or red paint. I'm not sure which one of these is the plastic here. I think it's the red, because the blue is shiny to match his blue plastic, so the red should be the paint. So he is painted and detailed very nicely. And really the main draw of this toy would be the design and the transformation especially, so we're going to go to robot mode right now. So if we're going to get started on that, this is a transformation which, either fortunately or unfortunately, you can kind of do in whatever order you want, provided certain pieces stay out of the way. So we're going to come around to the back here and just unplug the trailer hitch. This is tabbed in here, helping to hold this back section together. If anything, this is the least solid part of his vehicle mode. Because there are all these joints, it can easily come out of alignment and start breaking things, and it can impede the rolling if you don't have this all oriented the right way. But untap this. This section's coming loose anyway, so you take the whole roof of the truck and just peel it back. You can see this was tabbed in along these ridges here, and spoiler alert, here's his head. Now we're going to come down to these panels here and untab them. These panels themselves are on their own arms, which will come in handy later. And the only thing to note here is that this, you can see here, this is where the smokestacks peg in. So you can see from me wiggling this around, it's really hard to actually get these to come out, because they're really solidly pegged in here, sort of loosely pegged in the bottom. But it's something to look out for. I'm sure this varies from figure to figure, and it would suck to be transforming him trying to move it by this, and then they pop off. So, word of warning, they do just pop right back in if you do pull them out, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so once those are out of the way, we can come around to the front and split the whole grill area front of the cab. And this is really, this is my favorite part of the design of the truck mode, and I think it's really well done. You can see here that suddenly this doesn't look so good anymore. The nose looks really fat and blocky. And what really, really works, gotta get this panel out of the way. What really, really works about this design, the way that they've implemented this, is the slope. The fact that this is angled downwards, it hides just how big this actually is, that it extends all the way to the bottom of the truck, because you see different pieces put together here. And it's a really helpful way to hide the fact that his arms, everything in his forearms, his shoulders, his elbow area, and his forearms are all just tucked up in there. Okay, so once we have that done, the next step is really just getting stuff out of the way to get access to the forearms that I mentioned before. So we're going to untab these from the front and unfurl them like this. And then the whole section raises up on a joint, just a hinge to there. We'll get back to the arms in a second. Because the first thing we need to do now is work on the whole back area, getting into the legs. We can split the legs now. Trailer hitch folds away. And we're just going to close up the leg panels excuse me, and fold down the feet. So we could, if we wanted to, stand him up at this point. But as you can see, we're still in the middle of transforming him. Excuse me. Okay, so the next thing we're going to have to do is unfortunately reveal the head. A lot of people like saving this for last, myself included, when it can be managed, but it's necessary to pull the head up and fold these panels back at this point, because these need to be closed up for the grill panels to flip all the way around to create the layering on his backpack here. So we're going to do that. Again, on this side, you can fold this up, this back, and in here. And once that's done, these can just sling up the back like this. And now his backpack is finished. We come back around to the front. We're going to be working on the arms. And if you can see, there's a hole right here where the rivet is holding this wheel on. That is going to be used to tap the shoulders in place. So we separate these right here. You can see now we're getting a false windshield that looks way more transformed and screen accurate than the original one. And then we're going to come along to the sides and tab in his shoulders to these wheels. Now, that is not a secure connection. I want to get that across right now. So hold on, come on. You can see here this one goes like that. This is not a secure connection at all. This is not what holds the arms in, it's just sort of something for them to rest on. What actually locks these sections in place are some tabs right here around the midsection. So you can see this one actually went in pretty well. But this one, you can see, has to, and there's some hinges in here that help these bits move around. You just gotta find where it plugs in, and it's gotta rest nice and flush. And once that happens, these will rest nice and happy inside the wheels there. Okay, we're almost done. We're going to come around to the arms. We're going to open up these forearm panels to get access to his hands. And these are going to fold around and just rest in some grooves. And you twist the arm around into position. Okay. And now the final moment of truth is to take his whole waist section and twist it around until it locks into place nice and sturdy there. And let's get him standing up. I'm gonna move back just a little bit. And there we go. There we have Transformers Prime, Optimus Prime, in all of his glory, standing tall and proud in his very, very nice, very show accurate robot mode. Now, my major problems with this just sort of come down to some solidity issues. So first and foremost would probably be the arms here. Like I said, this connection, not the strongest. You saw there when I was transforming his arms, just turning these to the side, if you're pulling the wrong way, can untap the shoulders. Normally, I despise that type of engineering trick. We see it all the time in certain Transformers figures where the shoulders are separate pieces that tab into the upper body somewhere, and it almost never works. Some examples I can think of Transformers where that kind of works would be the Trailbreaker and Hoist that were released recently in Generations. Those kind of worked, but only because the joints they were on were extremely tight, not because the tabs actually worked. And it's annoying. For me, that's the biggest design flaw that a Transformer can have when the arms don't lock in. Because moving them dislocates the arms and the entire figure looks broken. And more importantly, the body of the character you're looking at looks broken. And that's very, very unfortunate. On him, like I said, the primary point of solidity comes from these chest bits locking into the midsection. Meaning even if you're moving this, they don't come that far away. It's not completely loose, which is something I'm okay with. I am willing to go back at some point and maybe try the floor polish trick to thicken up those pegs. I still have not been successful with reverb from that little test video I shot. So until I figure out how to make that work, I don't want to try it on other toys, so that'll be a while. But I'm assuming that's something that will fix this, just make it thick enough to sit in there nice and comfortably. And other than that, it's again an issue of just things not locking in place entirely on these leg panels. They tab in. You can see there's, some nice, there's friction that holds these in place, but it's not the best. These are just sitting on the front of the legs, and it's just these two tabs. I really wish there was something, just a peg. I know it would make these are those flat plates I was talking about that lie on the back of his vehicle mode. Sure, you'd see some pegs in here, some pegs on here, but it would just be really solid and hold things together. If anything, there's a peg hole here, which there could be a peg for here, or sacrifice the weapon storage. Don't have these here, have a peg sitting in here that would peg into a hole here. That would keep this together really solidly and would pretty much make the toy entirely solid and perfect. Just some little minor things, but things to bring up initially so we can get to all the good stuff. So we're going to start with detailing, and the primary one would be this chest. Now, the Transformers Prime designs usually had a lot of intricate little bits to their transformation sort of carried over from the movie designs. And a big thing was where their windshields ended up. A lot of the bots, Optimus here and Bulkhead, I said a lot, but it's just those two that I can think of, and Bumblebee too. Those three Autobots have the whole hood chest thing going on, but it's a lot more involved than can really be done with plastic, except in the case of first edition Bulkhead, who I will get to eventually because that toy is amazing. But on Optimus here, there was really no way to get this design through. These new windshield bits are thrust outwards, they're angled, there's now tech detail behind the windows. I don't know what that's called, the bit where the lights are mounted. Light bar, maybe? I don't know. That's rotated off to the sides. There's no way that could have been done and had the arms attached. So they made it a separate piece, but what works is the fact that these aren't just singular panels. They're attached to these midsection pieces, meaning this whole chest piece looks very solid. It's not just two rectangular panels sitting on the rest of his chest. Speaking of which, you can see some more yellow here for where the rest of the headlights ended up. He's got some silver here on his legs, some nice black shoes, and then the head. And this head runs with the whole Optimus Prime, has a crest on his head thing that Prime introduced, and it looks very, very good. It's a very nice head. If you give me a second, I'll show off some light piping. Okay, so I'm going to get very professional here for a minute. Cell phone flashlight in the back. Come on. Yeah, there we go. And you can see very nice blue. And this can be far away and he can still light up. Just it's a little bit dark in the room and the only lights are above. But you can see very, very, very nice light piping on him. And that does it from details from the front. Come around to the back, you can see he's very clean. I really like, again, the design of these bumper pieces. That's really, this is a really cool toy, but for some reason these panels are my favorite bit. They look really nice and solid in the backpack, and you have the smokestacks coming up behind them. What's really cool, you can see they come up at this angle. And it's not because the pieces are angled, it's because these, if you can see it, these arms that they're on are angled, attached to these hinges in such a way that they lie parallel and flush when they're in the vehicle mode, but then become a little bit off kilter and angled when you position them for robot mode. So that's very, very cool. Okay, so let's get down to some posability now. His head is on a ball joint, although you can see that's about all the tilting you get out of it. It's really just a swivel. I can prove that it's a ball joint too, because if you come around to the back here, you can maybe, yeah, you see this little like square little divot in there. That's, I don't know why it is, but it's characteristic of a socket on a head that a ball joint's plugged into. If somebody could explain why that is, that would be great. I just know that's true. Going into his arms, let's give him something to pose with. His two accessories. So he's got his gun here, which is done up all in black plastic with a little bit of, if you can see it, there's kind of a glittery metal flake effect done to it. It's very, very nice looking, very accurate to the show. And it slips over his hand, just like so. Hold on. This carries through the trend that a lot of Prime toys took on of trying to incorporate that whole the weapon is a part of the body thing that the animation did. Only Cliffjumper, first edition Cliffjumper, actually had the integrated weapons, but they went the extra mile to at least cover up where his hand was. So it does look like this is a little bit more of an extension of his arm. Okay, so there's his gun, and we can also give him his blade. Everybody knows this by now, but his sword is upside down. Don't know why. It's not the first time this has happened, though. If anybody has the Hunt for the Decepticons Battle Blade Bumblebee, you know that his axe is also on there upside down. So, to fix it, you just mount it on his arm upside down and ignore the fact that his hand is visible from the top. I don't really care that much, because it does cover up his hand from the side, and for all intents and purposes, it's a quick fix, and the sword looks fine. And he can pose with these accessories pretty well. We come up to his shoulders, there is a swivel this way. There's also an outward hinge. This shoulder pad piece is kind of annoying. It's designed to move with the arm, which it does, but it very easily gets stuck on all the panels in here. Meaning the only way to get his arm all the way out to the side in one fluid motion is to bump this up and then move this arm up. So it's good at covering a very small range and staying out of the way, but it's not designed all that well. He's got an angled bicep swivel here, which, I don't know, it might just be sculpted at an angle. I can't entirely tell. That might be for the transformation. I have not looked that in depth into it. And he's got elbows which bend slightly backwards and then a little bit more than 90 degrees. That's pretty good. He can hold his gun very naturally with his head swivel and everything else. You can get him looking pretty cool with that. And then we've seen the gun already. So I'll pop this off. And you can see he also has a wrist swivel, which is very nice. And let's see, can this, yeah, this hand can swivel with the sword, which is a nice touch. And again, he can brandish his weapon and look at you while he's doing it, so that's cool. And then I've been fiddling with his legs this whole time, so let's take a look at those. Come on, get out of the shot. Okay. If we come down to the lower body here, he does have a waist joint. You saw it during transformation, although the actual swivel's back here, so it looks broken if you do it anything more than just a little bit. but it is there, and you can use it if you're the kind of person who is way into displaying figures. You can definitely use this more, provided you get him at, you know, the right angle for doing this. Because here, from this angle, it doesn't look broken up. It's just from straight on. So that's there. He has universally jointed hips that can go forwards, backwards, and out to the side on a swivel that way. He doesn't have a thigh swivel, but he has a knee swivel. He's got 90-degree knees, and he has very nicely jointed feet. The foot and the heel are on one hinge, but they're separate pieces, meaning you can do, what can you do? You can do walking poses. Kind of. His knees don't bend that far forward, but we'll get back to that in a sec. But his feet can tilt forward and backwards, and then he has a sideways tilt, which really helps him keep a flat stance, which is great. I'm not somebody who freaks out over non-jointed feet, but I do like to see them in there. The thing I actually don't like are the angled feet. I know a lot of people like that because it allows for that natural sort of, you know, legs shoulder width apart stance. But the thing I don't like about it is that it only lets you do that stance. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, if the feet are static, then, you know, any pose you put him in, it looks like he's balancing on the edges of his feet. Well, yes, but it also looks like it's a limitation of the body. If the feet are sculpted at an angle and you put them in a pose that they're not designed to be put in, then you end up with really strange, like, chunks looking like they're missing out of the foot, because it looks like the foot is bent. So if it's not bending back to compensate for the new pose, then something looks wrong. But yes, he has jointed feet, and that is very nice. Helps it look solid and flat on the floor. And for as much as I complain about these things coming undone, the hinges they're on are sturdy enough that you can actually get him in that walking pose I was trying to do before, if you're okay with detaching this, because his foot is mounted on the front bit, not on the back bit. So you extend this out the slightest bit. Hold on, come on, work with me here. Slightest bit, rotate his hips back, sort of ignore that, and you can extend the range of his feet. I am really bad at posing figures, if you can't tell. But you can get a little bit more out of him if you decide to break the transformation in a few places, like with the legs and like with his waist joint. So we're going to get a quick shot of him with little Optimus Prime, the Cyberverse one. And we'll bring in little OP here to go with his fully replaced counterpart, and you can see that these two look pretty good together. The design doesn't exactly carry over, there's some color placement issues, but for the most part, it's looking pretty good. They've got the smokestacks where they need them, chest looks about right, midsection looks about right, colors are basically where they need to be, thighs are the right shape, blue legs, red upper body, which is the excuse me, which is the Optimus Prime staple at this point. And once again, their novel transformation comes in around the torso and arms region. For little Optimus Prime here, it's all about this torso joint as well as the neat combined arm shoulder pad bit. And for big Optimus Prime, it's all about this this special chest windshield thing. So that does it for this comparison, and that pretty much does it for big Optimus Prime here. This is a very cool toy. Sorry to anybody who came to the whole first edition party a little bit late. I know I was somebody who was planning on ordering this guy in bulkhead on the aftermarket, and I am really glad that I held off on it. They were looking a bit too expensive. I figured they'd be something that I'd wait on, see if the price came down, or wait till I saved up money when there wasn't anything particular I was hunting for at the moment. And then was wandering through a store one day, I saw both of them on the shelf for normal Voyager prices, and I grabbed them. And that was a good decision. These guys are very nice. I know there are multiple versions of Optimus Primes besides the Cyberverse ones. I know there's this guy. I know there's the Powerizer, like mainline Voyager version of Optimus Prime. There's the Beast Hunters one. There's the, I don't even know what he's called. It's like the Leader Class one, but they didn't call him that. I don't remember what he was called. There's endless repaints. There's Arms Micron guys and all that. Oh, and there's the first edition deluxe one as well, which is similar in design to this guy, although not entirely, because different size, different engineering tricks. So I don't have any of those other molds. I am interested in the Beast Hunters Voyager mold. That one looks pretty cool, but it doesn't look better than this one, and I'm not about to go buy an Optimus Prime that is worse than this one. This is my definitive Prime Optimus Prime, so I'm actually looking for that, the Beast Hunters mold as the Nemesis Prime version from Transformers Go. Haven't found him for a decent price yet, but when I do and when he shows up, he will definitely be appearing in this series as a Nemesis Prime. But for now, we have Transformers Prime First Edition, I guess Voyager class, even though it wasn't labeled that way, Optimus Prime. This has been Primetime Reviews Episode 4, and the second part of a two-part look at Transformers Prime, Optimus Prime toys. This is Hyboman here. Thank you for watching. I am signing off. And here we are for a close-up look at what is going to be the temporary Optimus Prime shelf. You can see this is just the one that I showed before in, I think, my Ripper Snapper review. But I'm turning this one into the Optimus Prime shelf for now. You can see we got all four of them there, sort of posed. Like I said, I'm not good at this whole display thing. But yes, there's space. I have more Optimus Primes to review, so we should be able to fill up this space. I'd say in no time, but it's going to take me a while. But fill it up eventually. So thank you for watching again.